I am a stellar citizen and I aspire to make jobs for the American people, alright? Put that on a t-shirt. You start talking like everything's a job interview. What's up, Bella? And hi, everyone. Welcome to Thanks for Your Concern. You're here with Bernice.
And I'm Ella, or you already know that because you announced me. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I died. I got home from work and I don't know what it is. Maybe work just hits different nowadays. I get home exhausted, feeling like I want to cry, scream, puke, and immediately fall asleep for 2 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I work East Coast hours, which is oh, yay, you get up and you get done, and then you have your whole second half of the day. But do you have energy to do anything?
No, you need a nappy after that.
Girl, it's funny. I've been napping more. I'm like, oh my God, I need to take a siesta. Is that what they call it? In Spain?
There is siesta time there, but they have something going over there. I agree with that. I honestly, there's been days, don't tell anyone, but I I go hide in the breastfeeding room. We call it the meditation room, okay? But it's the breastfeeding room. I go hide there at work sometimes, and it's not a very comfortable chair, or I would full on fall asleep there. But I'm just sometimes I just need a 10-minute snoozer. You know what I mean? It's just a 10-minute shutdown. And I think it just runs in my family. Because my sister will straight up find a bench, anything, at work, take a little nap.
I mean, honestly, I'm getting back into it. I need to take naps. This is the whole thing. It's because you can't get through a whole day without a little nappy poo.
Yeah, normalize naps at work.
Yeah, I agree. I just gotta do the post-work nap. So this is my new thing. I'm gonna post nap, and then I'm going to walk my dog. It's 6:00 right now, I have literally already today, I've worked out, I've gone to work, I had a waxing appointment, and I watched a whole episode of Grey's Anatomy, and it's 6 p.m., which is a lot of stuff, but I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah. Well, you've been up and at him for 12 hours. I mean, that makes sense.
14. Oh my God. But honestly, you know what I was going to say about my update is that I was talking to my dad. He was like, I'm worried about you and Berenice. You guys put out too much information on the podcast. Like the government is watching us. And he's like, I'm conspiracy brother, but things are coming to fruition. And I wish he was lying.
What does he think is happening to us?
I don't know. I was like, me and Berenice are just honest working girls, we're just we work our jobs, we have our creative endeavors, we're not doing anything crazy. He's like, you never know nowadays. I was like, I guess that.
I love America. I've been a positive member of society for most of my years after getting an MIP, okay? That has been my only incident in this country. I'll be very transparent about that.
No more.
No more. I am a stellar citizen and I aspire to make jobs for the American people, alright? Put that on a t-shirt. You start talking like everything's a job interview. It's a scary time out there for sure. I think there's a lot going on in the world and you feel it everywhere. I work for a retailer and you feel it there. You feel it in every avenue. My mom is a realtor and she's been having issues with that because people obviously are scared of what's to come with the economy and they're being more conservative with their money. And as we know, what happens when people do that, the economy crashes. The economy crashes when you do that. So yeah, it's a doozy for sure, the times that we live in.
Yeah. Any happy news? Do you have anything coming up this week? Oh my God. I feel like I want to say this weekend.
Happy news. I'm working on some outfits for Coachella. I'm super excited about. I found out I'm getting a bigger bonus than I thought at work. So that's also very tight. It's nice when nice things happen that I didn't prompt for. I'm also going to go to San Diego at the end of the month. I told myself no more trips. but it's my sister's birthday, and like
Fun.
my grandma's gonna be there. And here's the thing, right? Okay, so I don't know, but like sometimes you forget that like grandparents, they're getting older. All right, there's not that many more memories, like, to be real, that I'm gonna get to make with somebody that lives in a different country for me. And I am taking that very, just a little bit different as I get closer to the 30s. Okay, I'm like really trying to take care of my health, and I'm really trying to see people who are getting older. Like, those are maybe my two biggest priorities. How do I, my manifestations is like be the healthiest version of myself in order to spend like quality time with people I care for and everything that comes with that, right? So they said that my grandma was coming up to San Diego so we can run around, just the girls. And I was like, sign me up. So I think I'm doing that. So those are the good news, the happy news.
Even though you might not, you say no more trips, or it might be a little strapped for cash or what have you, you rarely regret time spent with loved ones. I guess I don't think you regret time spent with loved ones. And, I think about the time that I like hung out with my grandma for like a week, and it was a little cumbersome because of the commute. And I was like, ah, gosh. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this, like, for what it is, because it might be the like last quality time that I spent with my grandma. Lo and behold, it definitely was, and it's like, okay, well, happy I didn't, wasn't negative the entire experience through it, and that I did it regardless of the major inconvenience it was.
I guess you never know how special it is when you like call your grandparents, but she's always like, "Oh my god, hi!" So it's time for some quality time. But you're about to go to Texas. You're going to Austin. What you doing there?
Woo!
Anything fun?
Anything fun? Yeah, babes. I love going. I mean, honestly, it's just sunshine. So it's like 94 degrees. They have some we're going to do a couple hikes, going to do a swimming hole, just 94-degree weather things. It'll be a good time. Oh, we're going to Amal and the Sniffers. You guys know my fucking fave, Amal. And a funny story about Amal. I did a very bad Australian impression about a couple episodes back about her obsession with twisted teas.
Yeah.
Long story short, I met this dude from a ska punk band. Okay. He's like related to my boyfriend. He met Amal because they toured together with Snoop Dogg. Okay. Crazy small world.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, Amal, she's obsessed with those twisted teas." And I was like, I told you she's obsessed with the twisted teas. I didn't just make that up for content.
Inside info.
Inside info. I literally want to reach out to her. I'm like, girl, I've been talking about you and your twisted teas. Like, I'm obsessed.
I have to get you on this twisted tea bag game. College.
Oh God, don't twisted tea bags. Dude, I mean, when it comes to bagged alcohol, the worst one was the Fireball bag. That was the worst.
Yeah.
That led to the most worst decisions. And then second was the beatbox.
No, that was
When the
the
beatbox bag.
first one. The beatbox is like a Four Loco. There's that much alcohol in there. The Fireball, you can't take that big of pulls from that one because it's gross. But the beatbox, the first and only time I hit a beatbox bag was when Ella was literally physically in the hospital, 2 hours away from the town we were in. And it was Dad's weekend. I ran away from our sorority. I told my dad I was going to sleep because I was on probation with my family at this time for hence my MIP. And I ran, they weren't happy with me. And I ran outside with my friends, hit this beatbox bag, and I just remember Ella telling me the next day, "You were trying to break me out of the hospital 2 hours away with some people."
It was so funny because I get this phone call and it's like on speakerphone. It's Berenice and like our two other friends, and they're like, "Ella, we're coming to get you. We're breaking you out." And I was like, "I'm not in jail. Like, I actually like have to be here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was, they literally were like talking like they're about to pull a heist, and I was like, I love this energy, but I should be here. This is where I deserve to be right now."
So I don't recommend the beatbox bags. I think those are toxic. Stay away from those.
Have they been doing beatboxes at like in the rave scene in New York?
Yeah, a beatbox is literally like $3, $4. So I see them a lot, but I can't. There's just like different types of alcohol drunk. Like if you really were to like sit down and get drunk off every single different alcohol, I feel like every type of alcohol gives you a different feeling and just like overall meshes with your body a little different. For me, beatbox drunk just like makes me feel tired and like icky because there's so much sugar in those
It's a malt liquor
beatboxes.
and sugar. It's just
Yeah,
not a good. It is like poison for your body, but like
yeah.
ice was like sometimes the bar is like the best place in a rave because there's like the most room or whatever. And I was seeing these people slamming beatboxes, and I was like, oof.
Which
I
is
feel like you're not gonna
terrifying.
enjoy that tomorrow. I know the headache from
Yeah,
the sugar, bro.
and it's a little box, so truly, I'm a little. Honestly, I don't know how they get that much alcohol in there. Like in if there was like a square foot situation, that's a potent boy. You drink like half a beatbox, and you're like pretty faded, which is really scary to think about. Actually,
Okay, well, we have
we're
a.
not beatboxes sponsors in this podcast.
This is anti beatbox, honestly.
We will take applications for vodka and tequila, though.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay, you guys, we have a very fun episode. Is it fun? Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be hee hee ha ha's. Kinda,
Is
not
it?
really. In the middle.
No. Yeah, but whatever. Let's get into it.
You can't do it all. When is it too much? Okay, quick intro. Chapel Roan was on Call Her Daddy, and this we're not gonna like rag on her. I literally don't like. It's not worth ragging on. But she said something that I've been thinking about, and kind of had the same sentiment, but then a different half part of the sentiment. But the interview, like one little clip that's kind of getting clipped, is her talking about like all the things that go into like being an artist and like how it's impossible to do it all and then also be politically educated. And I was just thinking about this idea of like when is too much because I do think that the standards have never been higher.
I would agree with that. I think that there are layers, and we can definitely like get into those as we like go farther into the conversation, specifically with like privilege and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But there's some real tea in that. Like, there's only so many hours in the day to do a lot of things. I think something that I'm coming across, at least like in my journey, to try to be like as educated as I can be, as good of a friend, girlfriend, daughter, like employee, corporate employee, designer, aspiring, whatever, is that I come lacking in a lot of places. Like when I try to do it all, I'm not like as informed as I would like to be. I'm not talking to my family members as much as I would like to be. I'm not as engaged at work as they would like me to be. And I'm not pouring myself into my own business as much as I want to be. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard when you have a lot of hats to wear, where you're like trying to find time to do all these things where you genuinely like are things that maybe are core values to you. When you fill up your schedule, it's definitely like harder to get everything done in the most graceful way, in the best way that you can.
Yeah, I'm always wearing many hats. I mean, I feel like I've been wearing that's kind of like my comfortable zone. I don't like not doing a lot of things. I don't like having all my eggs in one basket, but it does get overwhelming. And I think one thing I've been trying to work on is being okay with an 80% day. I know this is going to sound really I mean, just personally, if I'm not 100%, like 100% of the time, I get upset. Like, and I need to be a little bit more flexible with days where I'm not giving it my all. Another thing is just reframing things to make sure that I am being fair to the reality of like what I can't do versus what I won't do. Because I think there's a big difference.
At the end of the day, like everything is energy, even like situations are energy. You know what I mean? Like, I think that now when your plate is so full that situations arise, and I'm just like, I just do not want to deal with this. I'm like, what is the solution to this issue? And is this a prolonging issue? This is taking away my energy, it's consuming my energy and my attention, and I just can't like handle this. And I feel like even as I become like busier and I have like more things that I care about and care to do, I become a little bit more of like a diva. There's no time for people pleasing here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't have time to do it. I am not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to think about your reaction, to be completely honest, because I don't have time to. And, like, I think that there's a fine line between like that and being an asshole, which I'm like trying to navigate. but there are, I guess, like some perks that comes to having a very like narrow time frame of a schedule. You really have to prioritize what's important
Mm-hmm.
and try to simplify things. I think for me, at least with being kind of like socially conscious and stuff like that, the most I've ever been like educated, where I would say like in broader, like encompassing of like racial issues and like locally and kind of like nationally and externally, was in college, and I was getting paid to like learn and teach about these things, which is like now I'm spending 3 4 hours a day literally like researching and tailoring things. So I sound like my version of what's coming out of my mouth is educated, it's competent, and I know when to shut the fuck up. I feel like
Mm.
there's a fine balance on like trying to be an advocate for any type of issue, where you have to play a lot of hats even with that issue. Like you're not always going to be an expert in everything, and I think like that's kind of the key here, that I if you don't have time to learn about all of those things depending on your schedule, because some people like really don't have time. There's like single moms that are like working literally all day, and like when are they gonna find the time to like add on to this thing? Like privilege really is like encompassing like that. Like many of the communities that are marginalized don't even know about like their own oppression because they don't have like time or resources to learn about it, which like is really sad. And I think like a little bit coming back to like the privilege question, where I feel like in my position where I do have a lot of things to do, but I'm still like I have access to the internet, like and there are gaps in my schedule. I try to put on podcasts, like anything I can listen
Yeah.
to while I'm doing something else. I start with like news of like the most credible sources I can find. Okay. I do an up first just to get through what is going on in the world. Kind of a little quick one. If there's any type of topics within that I'm like, oh my God, I should know more about this, a quick search about that topic into another podcast. Those I think help me kind of like stay aware, but I'm not at the level where I want to be. I'm not.
Yes, and that's why, like, I think that was one point that I felt, when she was just saying, like, oh, like, who has the time to be politically informed? I think that there's probably more people that could take the time. Like, I don't think that that is a universal, that nobody in the entire world has time. And I wanted to, like, give a little bit of resources because, like, time is, I get a time crunch, but, like, let's multitask. And so you said the thing about podcasts. I think like get on either a cadence that is comfortable for like your mental health and your mental capacity. If that's once a week, cool. If that's every day, cool. But there's an option there because then you can like do two things at once. And then another resource is like, dude, audiobooks on Libby. I talk about this all the time, but audiobooks are a way to just like you can get knowledge. Like it's just a good way if you want to deep dive. I think like there's so many things going on in the world. It would be really hard to be informed on every single thing that's going on in the world. So it's like if you want to focus on one thing and become like an expert on that one thing, maybe that's a way to like keep yourself sane. But for me, like just nonfiction audiobooks, which are free with Libby. And then another resource is most public libraries, and here's another thing about a library. All right. I'm a big advocate for libraries. If you do not have a good library system in your county, you can join other libraries. Like you can look it up, but like sometimes, like I think New York, like if you spend like $20 a year, you can still get a New York library card, even if you're not in like New York City. There's like workarounds. Yeah, there's like a couple workarounds. So like so the like, oh, my city doesn't have a library. It probably does, but like it doesn't have the best library ever. Figure it out. But another resource that library has is they have streaming platforms where you can like rent and stream documentaries. And so like, girl, put on a little documentary while you're doing something else, or actually watch a full documentary. A documentary that I watched during Oscar season that's on Disney Plus is called Sugarcane. And like now I have a snippet of a lot more information when it comes to indigenous people in Canada that I didn't have before, right? And it took me 2 hours to get a kind of like speed run on a topic.
Yeah.
And can you do that every week? No. Can you dedicate like I want to watch one new documentary a month about something? Yes. So it's like audiobooks, podcasts, documentaries, and there's a volunteer. I'll put it in the comment thing, but like if you can volunteer within your community and like do community aid, I know that's not totally possible for everyone. But like you can, there are people listening that could do it, right? And that's like another way to just get involved with your community and try to help out as you, there are like kind of four ways that I think people could become more politically informed.
Yeah, and I think you can also like choose the cause you want to embark on, right? If you're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, there's so much going on in the world. I think something that I had some, I don't know, a little bit of like my enlightenment period in college when it came like to what I wanted to do with my life was that I really cared about learning about a lot of different issues. I knew that that was something I had like a passion for, and I was like, well, I don't really want to be a lawyer. I've worked in law offices before. It's fucking miserable there. Okay, I can't do it. So how, and I really want to do fashion. How can I get those things together? Almost everything is like political. Okay,
Yeah.
like capitalism is a hell of a bitch, and a lot of things work together. Like even within fashion, it comes from like gender norms are reinforced in fashion. Still, there's like sizeism issues within fashion. There's a fact that like fashion is literally polluting like everything, our world, our oceans. There's issues within anything that you kind of like have a passion or care for. I'm pretty sure that there's institutions behind it and ways that you can get involved. So now, even like in my position where I'm not necessarily like per se like touching product, I'm always thinking about like how is this impacting like the world on like a bigger level, and how can I like tailor it to that, right? So I don't know, I feel like you can find a way to put all your like interests together with whatever type of social responsibility you want to place on yourself. Like at the end of the day, you can choose to learn about whatever you want. You can choose to advocate for whatever you want to do. And I think people do it at different levels that they're comfortable in and they're committed to. And even if like you don't have like a ton of time, like education is probably like the easiest paved way if you don't want to like protest. I think for me is like I haven't been to a protest in years. I think Ella just like asked me about it and I was like, I honestly like haven't found the hours in the like the 9 to 5 time to go to a protest, but I could probably do it on the weekend. You know what I mean? And it's like, but by the time it comes to the weekend, I am like so dead in the brain. So like I do get this idea of like doing it all in a lot of different ways. I don't think that there's like a perfect model, and I do feel like people have different opportunities to become more involved in their communities depending on their schedule and resources. But it's cool to be informed of what's going on in the world, even if it's overwhelming and even if like you already have a lot of things going on. I think it's kind of part of, at least for me, I know like I am just like a tiny person in this world, and like what I do may not seem like it impacts everything, but I am part of a community and I can't expect other people to care about things if I don't care about things.
And I think that with education, and I think a couple of things off of what you said, like one thing about like, who play to your strengths when it comes to how you want to like make an impact in this world. I kind of had this conversation with my therapist that like maybe I'm not the person to be like at the front line of a protest, but I am someone who could help out in different ways. And about being politically informed, I think that we can have a bigger impact than we because just an example with me is like, okay, because I got more informed about trans issues, then I can speak to people who might have be on the border or have some misinformation about that. And like I know I have a family member that wasn't saying anything like crazy, like, like not anything trans, well, I think it was veiled transphobia, okay? Like I would say misinformation that was that ends up being transphobic, but they weren't coming from a bad place, and that's some the way that things have been portrayed. I think I don't know, I just think the media has blown something totally out of proportion. And so like I was able to give them a statistic to show like, this is the reality, like this isn't what the news is saying, or we're focusing a lot on this issue. And they came back to me like maybe 8 months later and said that that conversation really changed how they viewed this issue, right? Of trans people in sports. And if I wasn't equipped with the education to pass on to somebody within my circle, like that would, like, I just changed one person's mind, but then they go out and change other people's mind, So it's like it ends up being like a ripple effect where it's like you think, oh well, I'm not gonna make any difference. It's like, well, if you make a difference in one person's life and that person makes a difference in one person's life, it's just a bigger impact, I think, than we are all small people, but we can have a big impact.
I agree. And I don't know, I feel like there's also a part of vulnerability that can like play in a lot of social issues. I know like for me when it comes to immigration, obviously I can speak from experience. When it comes to some other topics, I'm more of a listener. You know what, like I'm
Yeah,
amplifying someone's voice rather like I am even if I do know that subject matter, I'm gonna let them. I'm gonna let them rock. And if you have the knowledge, but your delivery is not great, because this is also like something that happens. We live in such like a polarized society that it's really actually difficult to get across to a lot of people, mainly when they are
mm,
coming in hot and they're not coming in to have like they're not coming in like a learning space. These are not like learning listening ears. These are more like debate ears almost in a lot of
yeah,
conversations. And I feel like if you have trouble navigating conversations with people when they're not receptive, maybe even taking a course on like forums and like discussions, like how to like lead discussions and like teaching essentially, that could be a good way if you want to like change the way that you approach certain situations. Because I feel like we're all different, and sometimes even with these topics like we're passionate, and some of like at least I in college, I used to get so triggered when I met people and they were like
yeah,
super Trumpy. And even when even if I had the knowledge, it was still hard for me to talk about because I was emotional when I was talking about it. I can say that now, even though it does make me sad when I hear certain rhetoric, I can hold my own in a conversation. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I really separate it from like a sentiment than like, all right, I'm gonna have a conversation with you based on what I know, based on my experience, and I'm gonna figure out whether you're down to listen to me or if I'm wasting my time here.
I I think we had a very similar experience. We'd get a pretty hot. We've had quite a
Tears,
few.
tears. I'm a sad girl. I was
Well,
ready. I was like, I can't believe you're.
to
Yeah,
be honest, I'm still sad about it because
yeah,
it's just, I mean, I don't want to cry about it, but like it has real impact on real people. Like people are experiencing violations of their human rights and violence because of rhetoric. So it makes me really sad because I sometimes in college, I think like guys just kind of like, I don't know, they felt like they just wanted to debate something and like this was like a game. And I was like, people are dying. Like this isn't a game. And so to me,
yeah,
it's like they were trying to like neg me into this little game that they wanted to play. And to me, I'm like, no, this is real life. This is serious. Now I think I go back to like what you said, which is like, okay, coming from a calm and cool place and seeing, is this someone I can actually have a conversation with, or is this someone who just wants to butt heads to win points?
yeah. I even think like in friendships, I've gotten better at being like, you know, I don't know, with like the election and things like that. I honestly haven't talked to a lot of people. since, but there's some friendships where I was like, the way that you're talking about things really honestly hurts me, because this has to do with women's rights, and this has to do with things that I don't know if you're informed about, but that really matter to me. And it kind of goes like with like I get like your views kind of goes against my values, and I don't necessarily know how to approach our friendship moving forward. And that's like I'm not coming across as emotional. I'm not coming across as anything, because sometimes like that is the biggest thing people will say. It's like, oh, it's emotional, and I'm like, oh, let me not make it emotional. Let me make it very clear, almost in a way where I'm like setting a boundary about like the type of values and the type of friendship that I expect. Like I expect you to be informed and care about issues that also pertain to me, and pertain to other
Yeah.
people, because I want to be friends with good people. And maybe not none of us are perfect, okay? I don't want to be friends with a perfect person, but I do want to be friends with someone who is trying to be a good person.
When you're talking about like, hey, these like values, I don't know, it's just I know you said like, oh, I never want to go into law, but like I think sometimes like the lawyery logic, and one of the best classes I took in college was intro to logic, and it was actually technically like a computer science class because that's how code and algorithm is written, is like using really clear logic, if then. and statements and things like that and logical fallacies. And it's just something to look into, because when you can come to it, not all arguments can be won with logic, because some people's arguments are illogical to begin with. But I think that helped me a lot, because then I was able to concisely say, I understand that, like, that is your feeling. Like, oh, I understand that you have that experience, but that is like a confirmation bias, or, that's like one of the logical fallacies and things like that, that I can just like point to and like kind of break down and not feel like someone's attacking them, but like trying to help them clear a way forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, people get really defensive, mostly when they actually don't know what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
that one's funny. Well, I was thinking like the thing that Chapel Roan said on the podcast, it was like, "Oh my god, I don't have time." I just kind of like, the thing that I thought was really funny about that was like, in college, like me and Berenice would be talking about something and like be fired up, and somebody'd be like, "Oh, well, I don't really have time for that. Like, it's so cool that you guys have time to think about human rights." And me and Berenice almost always had the same reaction, which is like, some people, like, it's kind of a privilege to not have to think about this stuff. And like, our political awareness is a consequence of our existence. And I think, for depending on your identity, you're not being a political advocate. You are, you just something happened to you or your friend, and it's going to affect you and how you live your life and the choices you make. Like, when you just think about like someone's day-to-day life, like having different states have different rules completely affects like somebody's choice to take a job, to move. Like, I don't know, it just has such a big impact. And like, to think that like you just are like, oh yeah, I just don't care. There's just so much privilege to that.
She was definitely getting a lot of flack for that, which, like, that's kind of like the repercussions of putting your opinion on the internet. It is what it is. And I think I heard like an argument on TikTok that's like, well, you do have the resources to probably get someone to sum up what's going on in the world for you like once a week, which is true. So it really depends kind of like on your own commitment. It can be a lot. Like sometimes the world is a lot. You have a lot going
Yeah.
on, and then you know that everything is shit and you want to check out. And I think that's also valid. Like, especially like around the election time, I know a lot of my friends were just like emotionally devastated, and they're like, I don't even want to know anything for like a week. And I think that that is really, really valid. But the world does keep moving, and your friends can also be a resource. Like if you know that one of your friends is like really passionate about a topic, you can ask them. It's like, hey, I actually like don't know a lot about it. What do you recommend? And that's
Hmm.
probably one of the best places you can get information, because they'll probably know a podcast, book, like different avenues for you to get involved in, with the level that you're comfortable in.
Yeah, that's kind of like to my point, where it's like, be a part of your community in that way, like, talk to your friends, support your friends where you can. And like, as far as like, oh, like, that's like uplifting your friend who's having a hard time because something affects them or they're upset about something. To me, that's like a form of community advocacy and community work. It's like when we're supporting each other. Like, that's boots on the ground to me. We don't need everyone to be a perfect advocate, but we do need everyone to do a little bit, do what they can, and whatever
Yeah.
that means for you. And like, I also agree with you, and we're saying like, hey, things are really hard and like things are overwhelming. So take the time that you need to take, but reframe it as like conscious effort of like, hey, I'm checking out right now, but I will check back in with this person around this date. Just don't check out forever, because we're gonna need you.
It's an interesting time to be alive. The biggest and probably most important thing that I really learned in, when I was teaching stuff in college was just like the notion of coalition. I feel like as individuals, we're all born into like different circumstances. Some of us are more privileged than others. Some of us are just have different challenges that we're struggling. And I think sometimes I have the hardest time not necessarily talking to people, but it's like if you were raised under certain circumstances and you're passionate about that topic, but you're not standing up for racism in institutions, or you're not like like kind of like it's the motion that like we all experience oppression, and unless we start caring about the oppression of other people and not just our own, we're like it's community liberation. So we all have topics that we truly do care about, but it is showing up for the topics that maybe don't impact us in our day to day, where we can really start to make a difference and amplify other people and other voices.
I agree. And it's the idea that injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Of course, like, do I personally have to worry about immigration in the US as a US citizen, natural birth? Probably not. But guess what? If we're going to start taking people's rights away and we're not following the Constitution and we're doing things that are illegal, I don't think that's going to stop on my doorstep. There's going to be a day where the oppression comes and like takes me and my rights away, right? So it's like I'm going to clock in and try to help out now.
And that's true. And that's like another way I think like sometimes I don't understand how people are like down for specific things, because I'm like, this is kind of threatening your constitution and your democracy. So like I thought you were down for that, you know?
A piece that would be palatable for everyone to listen to is This American Life. Did an episode this week about some of the things that are going on in the world. And honestly, this fucking I don't even want to get into this. Anyways, the administration's coming in. I mean, Donald Trump's coming in really high, like not really off some subtle shit, all right? Like the opposite of subtle. So don't wait till it's at your doorstep, babes.
Yeah.
And when you have to be politically informed.
Yeah. Rather be all with doing it all. And I think some of the themes that come into this is like community. I think that if we all like expected a little more from each other, right? And we cared a little more about each other's issues, then, you know, it would take the load up. And I think that comes into even the things that you're experiencing in your day to day. Like, if you're doing a lot, you can always reach for community help. And I think that in order to get community help, you do have to pour into your community to get things out of your community. So, you know, food for thought, community is important. Putting some energy into there and getting some back helps in all aspects of your life, whether you're really extended in, you know, like childcare, if you're really overextended in work, if you're really overextended in anything. Like, community is important, and it's important to take care of our communities and all of the issues that we face in them.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell
All
yeah,
right.
brother.
Thank you guys. This is honestly that was pretty light. We could have. I feel like that was medium. How dark roast? That was a light roast. That wasn't too heavy. I really enjoyed that though. There's been some things on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, they're always there.
I know.
You can't ignore them, but they do catch up with you. Like, they will one day or another, like through any sort of media. And I feel like most people care. They care about you, care about the people in your life. You know what I mean? And the people in your life are experiencing things differently from you. So it's important.
Capitalism is keeping people super extended. I really want to say I completely understand being overwhelmed, but I just challenge you to believe in yourself to do 1% more, you know? So if you're at 0, just add 1%, whatever that looks like.
I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that one with me. I think in Brooklyn, I found this was just like one of like the volunteering things I want to do. I honestly, I'm not like picking up things in the street. It kind of grosses me out. I don't want to do it. But there is a recycling center for fabric in New York, and there's a lot of that here. So I'm gonna try to go and do that. And you do actually get fabric from it at the end. So you know they like you don't get paid for your services, but you're like you can take some things, which you know
That's
what a
fun.
beautiful concept. Yeah. Yeah.
See, there's an opportunity for everyone to be involved in your community. You do have to do a little bit of legwork to figure out your fit, but like babes, everyone needs help right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not the tea. Everyone needs help.
Okay, you guys, thank you for listening this week. We'll be back next week with a hot, juicy new episode. If you want to make sure you hear it, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you rate this podcast and send it to a friend. And you can find us on social media at Thanks Number for Your Concern.
I'm at Bernice Ideas.
And I'm at Ella L. Tudor. We love you guys. Thanks for listening.